Hi, today we are looking at section 1.1, which deals with simple interest. So first we'll look at some definitions. When we're looking at financial terms in this unit, when we get term, that refers to the length of an investment or loan. A fixed interest rate is an interest rate that is guaranteed not to change during the term of an investment or loan. So if interest rate you start with will be the same as interest rate you end with. A variable interest rate is an interest rate that changes, usually at a market rate. So you may start an investment with one interest rate, but when you're done that investment, it may have a different interest rate. And simple interest, which is the main thing we'll be focusing on today, is the amount of interest earned on an investment or paid on a loan based on original amount. The original amount is referred to as the principal, and the simple interest rate. Maturity refers to the end date of an investment or loan. So if an investment or loan has matured, that means we've reached the end date of it. We also have the rate of return, which is the ratio of money earned or lost on an investment relative to amount invested, usually represented by a decimal or percentage. And the future value is the amount that an investment will be worth after a specified period of time. So calculating simple interest, our formula is I is equal to PRT, where I is our interest earned, P is the initial principal invested, R is our interest rate as a decimal, so often we're given as a percentage, and we need to change it to a decimal. Usually we do that by dividing by 100. And T is our term length. Now, in most cases, our term length is in years. However, in some situations, if we're given an interest rate that is, say, monthly, then we would have our time in months. Okay, we'll look at our first example. You invest $3,500 at an annual interest rate of 1.75% for 10 years. How much interest would you earn? What is your new total? And write an algebraic expression to determine the overall future value. So first thing we'll do is solve for interest earned. So to start out, I would write out what information we have. So this 3,500 is our principal. So our principal is 3,500. We have a rate of 1.75%. We need that as a decimal though, so we'll divide it by 100, which gives us 0.0175. And in this case, our time is 10 years. So we have our formula that I is equal to PRT. We'll substitute our values in. So we've got I is equal to 3,500 times our rate of 0.0175 times our time of 10 years. And we get an interest earned of $612.50. Okay, so that is part A. The interest earned was $612.50. Part B is what is our new total. So this is how much interest we have earned. So our new total would equal how much we initially invested. So 3,500 plus $612.50. So that's going to give us a current amount of $4,112.50. Now, part C was writing an algebraic expression to represent our overall value. So I'm going to say my total is A, which is short for amount, is equal to, in this case, we see in our formula, we had essentially a principal here from our previous equation that we came up with here. Now, we had our principal plus our interest earned. Now, our interest earned was as I is equal to PRT. So our amount is equal to our principal plus our interest earned, which we can simplify that as our amount is equal to P plus P times RT. And now we can see that we can actually factor P out of both these terms. So we have our amount is equal to P times 1 plus RT. Now this is a formula that we'll use a fair amount in the practice work for this section. Okay, next example, you invest $5,000 in interest rate of 6% paid semi-annually. How many years until your investment reaches $8,000? And what is our rate of return? Okay, so we'll start with A. So we'll write out what information we have. We know our principal is $5,000. Next thing they tell us is our interest rate, which is 6%. We're going to want to change that to a decimal. So divide that by 100, which gives us 0.06. And we want to solve for T, because we want to know how many years. And we've essentially been given A is equal to $8,000. So we'll start by writing out that formula that we just came up with on the previous example. So we've got A is equal to P times 1 plus RT. We'll substitute our values in and then gradually rearrange to get time on its own. So we have 8,000 is equal to 5,000 times 1 plus 0.06 times our time. And now we're going to gradually rearrange to get T on its own. So right now we've got 5,000 times all of this. So we want to move this 5,000 to the other side. We'll do that by doing the opposite operation. So we'll divide both sides by 5,000. So 8,000 divided by 5,000 is 1.6 is equal to 1 plus 0.06 T. At this point, I would probably want to move this 1 to the other side. So to get rid of this positive 1, I'll subtract 1 from both sides. So that gives us 0.6 is equal to 0.06 T. Now we want to get T on its own, so we need to move for 0.06. Currently, it's being multiplied by T, so we want to do the opposite operation and divide both sides by 0.06. And that's going to give us 10 years is equal to our time. Okay, so now we're going to do B. So what is our rate of return? To calculate our rate of return, we're going to need to know the interest that we've earned. So we'll go back to an equation that we started coming up with on the previous page. We had our amount was equal to our principal plus our interest earned. Now we want to solve for interest, so I would subtract principal from both sides. So our amount minus our principal gives us our interest earned. So if we have 8,000 minus 5,000. That's going to be our interest earned. So we earned $3,000. Now our rate of return is essentially our interest earned divided by our principal. So in this case, it would be $3,000 divided by $5,000. Now we can write this in one of two ways. We can do it as a decimal, which would be 0.6, or we can change that into a percentage. So we've got a 60% rate of return. So after 10 years, we have earned 60% of what our initial investment was. Next example, if an investment of 20,000 increases to 29,500 after 10 years, what is our interest rate? So once again, I would start this by writing out the information that we know. The first thing we're given is our principal. So we have a principal of $20,000. Then we're given an amount. So our amount is 29,500. Our time is 10 years, and we're looking for our rate. So we'll go back to that equation we derived earlier. If A is equal to P times 1 plus RT, we'll fill in our information that we do have, and then rearrange to solve for our interest rate. So our A was 29,500. Is equal to 20,000 times 1 plus R times our time of 10 years. So first thing I would do is move this 20,000 by dividing both sides of our equation by 20,000. Those will cancel out. And 29,500 divided by 20,000 gives us 1.475. Now, when we're doing a financial math, we want to keep as many decimals places as possible. Try to avoid rounding if at all possible. Now, if I simplify this side, this is 1 plus. We tend to write, if we have a variable times a number, we usually move the number to the front, so 1 plus 10R. At this point, I'd move this 1 to the other side by subtracting 1, so that gives us 0.475 is equal to 10R. We will then divide both sides by 10 so that we can get R on its own. So we get 0.0475 is equal to our interest rate. Now, one thing to remember is our interest rate in this formula is our interest rate as a decimal. So if we want to change it into a percentage, we need to multiply by 100%. So this would give us 4.75%.